right now. First of all, I would like to express my thank you to Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor T.D. Kemparaju Garu, and also the Principal Government First Grade College and the FDP organizing team. At the same time, I must be very much thankful to Dr. Muralidhar sir because of him, I am today on this forum. He introduced me to some other group and he allowed me to do one FDP program to other academic research group. So I'm very much thankful to him, and because of that, and I'm here and I got this opportunity. And with this, today I'm going to address the topic on COVID-19 and its impact on business, right? So what I'm going to do in this session, in this session, I'll be talking about the first 30 minutes. I'll be talking about, we'll try to understand the different sectors before COVID-19, what exactly, the sectors were behaving before March 22nd, because we know that is the date, the lockdown date, right? So before that date, we would like to see, how the industries were, and after after this lockdown, or maybe let's say after 1 month or after 2 months or post lockdown, how the different industries are going to behave and how the different industries are going to have impact of this COVID-19. So that's what I planned, 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after. And I have chosen specific industries, and these are the industries very much connected to me at the same time, because these are the industries which I track, and these are the industries regularly I teach in the classroom, right? And this is also very much interesting topic, because 2 days back I received a couple of calls from my students asking what to take the next specialization. This is specialization because they are in MBA first year, they are going to pursue MBA second year. So they are asking questions like, sir, what will be our specialization? Can you suggest? Is it like something like finance or marketing, or something like operations or HR? Right, because COVID-19 is impacting across the functions. Across the functions, I mean to say, it is going to have impact on accounting, finance, at the same time marketing, HR, at the same time technology, operations. Every function it is going to have an impact. So it was very difficult for me to address, or it was very difficult for me to convey them what should be their next specialization. So right, so I will also address that question in this presentation, right? So with this, let me start. And before moving into the lecture, I would like to talk about the recent writings of mine. Very recently, I delivered a lecture on COVID-19 and impact on Indian startups in other forum. At the same time, that article is also published in two different newspapers, which are widely circulated and widely popular in markets. Then my recent contemporary works, I'll take 5 to 10 minutes about that, explaining that. In that way, maybe a couple of faculty members, you may get some research ideas, so that you can take those research ideas as working paper or something like news article. You can start working on those ideas as well. Then I'll get into the industries, and I'll talk about what industries have chosen, and we'll talk about the essence of cash flows, because this is the crisis time, and irrespective of the industry, they are going to have tough time in managing cash flows. So we'll also spend some time in understanding cash flows and the nature of cash flows and how cash flows behave, and how the cash flows are going to impact various industries. So for that, we'll spend some time on understanding the cash flow matrix. That's where we are going to learn many things. Then we'll get into the 5 industries have chosen. There are many industries, but I can't address all those industries in 1 hour or maybe in 1.5 hours. But I'll try to give essence, how to understand the industry and how you can relate COVID-19 with that particular industry. I have a framework, and with that framework, you can able to apply to different industries. That is what I'm going to do in today's session. Right. So this is what my latest publication, and this is exactly what I spoke about in the previous FDP, what the crisis means for Indian startups. And these are all, you can see, there is a huge list. You can see, almost like, 5 to 7 unicorn companies. And these are all, everyone knows, predominantly tier 1, tier 2, in fact, tier 3 also, they know about these startup companies because they have made remarkable performance. And their inception year is not before 5 years. You can see, I think Paytm is only 2014, but thereafter you can see their inception years are like not more than 5 years. But the kind of growth they have achieved in last 5 years is awesome. And you can see the investors and who are the investors, and how they have made investment and how much investment they have made. And here I would like to say one important aspect. In these startup companies, many US venture capital companies and the Chinese venture capital companies, Japanese venture capital companies, they have invested huge amount, and they are the, the financiers. They are the financiers for these companies. So this got published very recently on 19th of April 2020, and as a main editorial in Business Line. The same article is also published in Inadu. I always used to share my knowledge to the different people. So I circulated the same article to Inadu. They approved it, they published it, and it is also widely circulated paper. And many people have read these articles. They exchanged the information with me. They shared their thoughts, and it's a kind of win-win situation. When I'm sharing my articles in the public forum, they are reading, they're commenting, they're also complimenting, they're also making me to learn new things. So that is the reason I believe in writing these papers. And it builds a good sort of networking with industry people. When I have shared these two articles with different WhatsApp groups, so immediately there were some requests asking me my contact. At the same time they want to be in contact with using LinkedIn and etc. So at the same time, I also connected with good people and industry people, company CEOs, as well as founders and etc. So that is the background of this, both the articles and startups, because startups contributed a lot. I'm going to talk about the contribution of startups in the presentation, but they have contributed a lot in the last 5 years. We'll discuss about that. At the same time, established businesses also, we are going to do that. Then this is the sector which I have chosen to talk about in today's presentation, automotive sector. So what is going to happen to automotive sector after COVID-19, right? So before COVID-19 itself, automotive sector was struggling hard, and they were finding it hard to convert their inventories into sales. And for last 9 months or for last 12 months or even more than 12 months, these are the companies struggling hard in terms of selling their inventories, attracting customers. At the same time, they had many challenges. We'll discuss what are those challenges, and reforms and taxes, how they have impacted this particular sector before COVID-19. At the same time, what are the problems they are going to have after this lockdown. So we'll address that. But this article published in Forbes India, and we were suggesting something like, the car sales should make it online. I think I told in the previous presentation, and also recently I came across, Mahindra is also selling their cars online, and Hyundai is also selling cars online. Online sales were not there. Very recently they have launched because of this COVID-19. They can't able to meet the customer, and they can't sit idle. At the same time, they can't sit with their inventories for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, because maintenance is going to be a big problem for them. At the same time, the cash is also going to get blocked in that inventory. So they have taken the initiative, and almost every car company is trying to sell it online. Whether this model works or not, we'll see, but it is working for few companies. We'll see that. This is most important. I always tell my students, you should not worry about the current crisis, because as I said, the crisis creates an opportunity, right? Many passing out students are in trouble, and they say that the companies are deferring their offer letters. The companies are postponing their joining dates, and the junior batch is also extremely worried about their placements and etc. So some time back we wrote an article which is very much relevant in the today's context. We said internship is a safe option in recession. see, this is the time not to aspire for a job. This is the time to think of an internship, whether it is a paid internship or unpaid internship. You occupied with some organization, you try to meet with people, you share your work, and you make your network. If they are happy with your work, if they are happy with your knowledge, if they are happy with your attitude, they will offer you the job. You can't sit at home and complain about the economy, complain about the recession. As a student, you have to be very proactive in writing to the companies and figuring out what are the internship opportunities and etc. So this is the safe bet, and every student at the same time, every faculty should advise their students, figure out, tell them to do some kind of internship programs, whether it is virtual internship or maybe the internship at the office premises. But at this hour, I mean to say, in this lockdown, getting physical internships in physical organizations may not be possible, but there are companies which are offering internships in digital marketing, in digital analytics, financial analytics, and etc. So these are the platforms where they can be. But this article is very much relevant in today's context. These two are my favorite articles and very much relevant post-COVID 2019. Why? Because if you see the first article, the article says, a human boss versus a machine as a boss. What is the context of this human boss and machine boss? Who is this machine boss? Now you see employees are working at home, right? Many, almost all IT company, if you take an example, employees working in IT companies who are going to manage their work, who are going to manage their performance appraisals, who are going to rate them. So machines are going to do that. There are some apps, they are going to track the employee performance and etc. So that was the context where we have written this article, the merits of human boss and the machine boss. Many companies are going to spend on technology because they have got the taste, they have got the figures, working from home is a good option for them. So to monitoring these employees, I'm sure they are going to invest a lot on developing, creating machine bosses. So that was about that article, very much relevant post COVID-19, how to deal with machine bosses and how to deal with the human bosses. Right? Who is best is a different question, but you can go through the complete article that's there on my LinkedIn. Then I have one more article, rating matters in this competitive world. Before COVID-19 or after COVID-19, ratings are going to be certainly matter. How are you going to rate? How are you going to perform in your organization? Accordingly, your appraisals are going to take place. Whether you're a good performer or a great performer or outstanding performer or excellent performer, based on that, they are going to decide how much to be incentivized and how much to be granted as a bonus and etc. But now after lockdown, I don't think the promotions are going to take place or incentives are going to take place. But to retain your job, you need to perform. So that is what ratings matter in this competitive world. Right. So these two articles are there on LinkedIn. Just go through that, and you can able to spend some time in reading these articles. It will give good intuitions. And this is again one important article. You can see help yourself and sell yourself. And I think whether it is COVID or no COVID, we have to help ourselves and we have to move forward. We have to learn, relearn, unlearn. Everyone is using this term, but instead of that, I say that help yourself to sell yourself. So there are various forums. Please go through that forums and update yourself and ensure that build new network, interact with as many as new people, and try to add value to the others. Because the mantra for post COVID-19 is your network is net worth. Please make a note. Your network is going to be your net worth. And network you cannot build overnight. Network you cannot build in 1 year or 2 years. That requires a lot of struggle. That requires a lot of sacrifices. So what you need to do? There are various forums. You try to participate in those forums and try to add some value to those forums, and slowly you can able to build. Right. So these are the latest articles which are very much contemporary, very much relevant, and in fact these articles we have published before COVID-19. But these articles are going to be very significant even after COVID-19. That's what my perspective. So with this, let me get into the main topic. So this is the main topic what I'm going to address in today's lecture, the impact of COVID on Indian business. First of all, let us see, what is this business is all about. Let's spend some time in understanding the business, right? There are a couple of circles here, and you can see all the circles are connected. And because of COVID, all these circles are disconnected. So that is the reason we are calling it as a lockdown, right? So lockdown has ensured that the businesses are disconnected now. No, I don't see the firms are can able to connect suppliers, firms are able to connect the customers, firms are able to connect their employees and stockholders as well as debt holder. I'm not talking about entire 100%. There are exceptions, 5 to 10% are exceptions. Service based companies, they can able to connect. But what about the manufacturing companies? What about the airline companies? What about the automotive companies? Predominantly they are into manufacturing companies. I think because of COVID-19, there is a disconnection which is happening. And one more thing, when I discuss this is my favorite slide, and I always use this slide in MDP program or FDP program or any program when I address, because this is what the business for me. I always see, how I try to use this slide and connect with industry, right? So every circle is a business here. By the way, I asked question to the students, what is, where do you see a business in this particular slide? And some people they answer, it is firm. They call it as a business, and few students they say that every circle is a business. In fact, every circle is a business, right? But for the purpose of classroom delivery, I define my business as a firm. And I think many accounting teachers are also there, so they know the accounting is for firm and how this firm functions. You can see a couple of input markets and output markets and labor markets. COVID-19 has impacted all three of them. The input markets are affected, where you talk about the supply chain. The supply chain has become a big problem now. And labor markets, firm is also failed to connect with their labor, and those rich companies, the companies which are in services mode, they have the luxury to send their laptops and their computer systems to the employees' home and etc. And they are taking the work from them. What about the small companies, medium companies, where they don't have the luxury to connect with their employees, right? And customers is altogether, it has become a big challenge for these companies, how to meet customer. And even if you try to meet your customer may not be interested because of this COVID-19. And even if you send your sales executive, even post COVID also, if you ask your sales executive to meet a customer may say, no, I'm not interested to meet any sales executive and etc. Even if they meet, there is a huge distance, and that distance creates some sort of a distance to get the product to be acquired. So this is essentially for me a business. You try to connect this particular slide with the industry, what you wish to look for, whether it is automotive industry or FMCG industry or IT industry or banking industry or any industry. And one more thing. So this is one sort of a perspective. The other sort of a perspective, every cell is connected. Since every cell is connected, you also see there is an exchange of cash flows. There are cash inflows from various circles. There are cash outflows from various circles, right? That you can imagine, right? Firm is receiving cash from the customer. Firm is also going to pay cash to suppliers. Firm is also going to pay cash to employees. At the same time, firm is also receiving cash from the shareholders as well as the debt holders. In return, they end up paying them the dividends as well as the interest to shareholders as well as the debt holders. So these are the things which are going to have a huge impact post COVID-19. In fact, during this itself, many companies have started finding the difficulty in managing cash, dealing with cash, and how to extract cash from the customer, and how to pay cash to suppliers as well as the employees and etc. Right? So these circles essentially talks about the exchange of cash and the exchange of cash flows. And you can see here the circles like from suppliers to customers to employees. This is what essentially an operating cycle of any company. This inverse triangle, you can see there is an inverse triangle, suppliers to customers to employee. This inverse cycle, this inverse triangle, we call it as operating cycle. Operating cycle is very important for any company, and that operating cycle is hit because of this COVID-19. So how the companies are going to come out of this operating cycle issue, how are they going to connect with their customer, and how are they going to connect with them suppliers as well as employees post COVID-19. It's a big challenge for them, and how the companies are going to take forward that. Then within the firm, you can see, the firm circle, you can see a lot of investment already happened in that particular firm. Many industries, you can see, in some industries over investment is also happened. In some industries there is an under investment also, it happened. But essentially firm talks about what you can see the cash flows which are essentially invested in capital expenditure and etc. So that's where we talk about firm. And financial markets, we have seen how they raise money from stockholders as well as the debt holders. Now you see what is the shape of financial markets, whether financial markets are going to, going to invest in this particular firm, right, in the way how they have invested before this COVID-19 lockdown. Will they continue to be in the same fashion or not? We have to see. So these are the issues. So every circle here is a company, and firm is also trying to connect with all these companies, and there is an exchange of cash flows. And here we identified a couple of things like operating cycle and investing cycle as well as the financing cycle. So we can say a company deals with operating cash flows and investing cash flows and financing cash flows. So how are they going to manage these cash flows during the lockdown and post lockdown, and how the financial markets are also going to respond. Labor markets, we have already seen the issue, especially with MSME companies and small and medium enterprises companies. I think they are going to have a big issue on labor markets. Why? Because the migrant labor, we have seen, they are going back to their villages, and getting them is very difficult. And MSME is already in trouble. And even yesterday, Prime Minister Modi announced a huge package of 20 lakh crore package for various things such as land, labor, and law, right? And he also mentioned about the small and medium enterprises. Even that happens, whether the labor is going to come back is a question mark. So labor crisis are going to affect the small and medium enterprises. At the same time, there are challenges with suppliers, global chain, global supply chain. And interestingly, Prime Minister was talking about the local. And yesterday was more specifying about the local product and local chains, right? So that's what I highlighted. So how suppliers are going to react to that, we have to wait and see. And financial markets, because the more focus in the yesterday's speech was about the local product, local brand, and the local supply chains, right? Having said all of these local things, how are you going to attract global investment? That makes a question mark how the financial markets are going to react. It is purely my perspective. It is purely my observation. So every circle is connected with cash, and the firm is going to disperse cash. That is how I try to see every industry with this particular slide. Now you can see, I think already we discussed the managers are going to manage that particular firm. You can say the board, or you can say the company executives, CEO and CFO, and all of them are the managers, and they are dealing with different stakeholders. You have stakeholders such as shareholders, customers, suppliers, employees, community, government, and lenders and debt. So we have seen already there is a disconnect which happened from customer to supplier to employee. So there is no exchange which is happening. In some cases it is only one-side exchange, not the two-side exchange. But otherwise, in a normal scenario, it's a two-way exchange, right? Managers are dispersing goods and services. In return, they are getting cash. The same way, suppliers are distributing goods and services. In return, they are getting cash. Employees is also the same case, right? But what is going to happen with the government? What if the lockdown continues? I don't think the companies are in a position to pay the taxes, and that will have impact on the public goods, public facilities, and etc. Right? Same case, community support. Community also supports to operate the businesses. So even though they are supporting, but in return they may lose jobs. They may not get jobs, right? When there are some companies, they spend money on charities. If that company is in trouble, who is going to take care of that particular charity and etc., right? On the other side, what if the managers have taken loans from banks, and if they fail to repay their loans, and if they fail to repay their interest and the principal amount, even though the government announced a moratorium period, that cannot be more than 3 months or 6 months. Beyond that, they have to have this interest and principal amount on the loans, right? So these are the consequences we can expect post COVID-19. So every stakeholder is connected here, and how the stakeholder is going to get affected. So this gives this how the leaders are going to be in serious trouble, because managing all these circles, right? So that is about the business, that is about the exchange, that is about the cash flows, and that is about the different types of cash flows, and how they are going to manage the enterprises and manage these entities and etc., right? So someone asked, what is business? The business is all about for me, business is all about the accounting. Why? Because accounting only talks about the business, and accounting in fact is a language of business. We always say accounting is a language of business. That is the simplest definition of accounting, right? How do we understand this business? That's the reason we have annual report as a document. And if you see the annual report, you can able to understand what is the state of business, whether it is before or after, during the crisis or after the crisis, etc. But these are the essential documents to understand what exactly is the business is all about, right? So if you see the accounting information of for any company, let's say you are interested to see how the Reliance Jio is doing, because there during this crisis time, Reliance Jio is attracting investments, and Facebook invested a huge amount in Jio. Jio is also acquiring some other company, right? So that is they are using this crisis in terms of what investments, in terms of acquisitions and etc. But if you see typically what is their the financial position, what is their balance sheet position and etc., and if you see their annual report, that annual report consists of 400 plus pages. Who is having time to read through 400 plus pages? It is very difficult. I can't read all 400 pages document for one company, just to understand one company. Similarly, company like ITC, ITC, if you see that particular company is having presence in almost like 8 to almost in 6 to 7 industries. They have a presence. ITC is a conglomerate company. They have a presence in different businesses, different industries. So one tip I would like to say, I would like to say here, if you try to read ITC, you can able to understand Indian economy, because ITC's presence is there in agriculture, ITC's presence is there in retail, ITC's presence is also there in technology, as well as in hotels, as well as in manufacturing. So India is all about this, right? We can see agriculture, services, manufacturing and etc. So try to understand ITC, we can able to understand how the Indian economy is all about, right? So so it is difficult to read 300 pages document or 400 page document. So simply, instead of that, I advise you to just read through these 3 pages to understand any business, irrespective of any industry. Try to understand these 3 pages. The balance sheet is the most important statement, income statement is most important statement, and statement of cash flows. See, these 3 are very useful documents, because now if any company wanted to go for a loan, and they have to produce these 3 statements, and in these 3 statements, the problem with these statements also we'll discuss, but these are the 3 statements which are historical, right? Which are historical, and how the bank is going to give them the loans based on historical documents, because post COVID-19, no one knows how the industry growth rates are going to be, how the demand and supply is going to be. So we'll discuss what are the challenges bankers are going to face once I talk about the banking industry, right? So these are, but essentially whether you accept it or not, even though they are historical statements, without these statements you cannot understand the business and you cannot move forward. So these 3 are basic financial statements, and auditors and management report is most essential document, and MDA is also a most important statement, management discussion and analysis. So in MDA, what companies they do, they talk about the future plans, what they are planning for next 5 years, what is their investment plan, and is there any acquisition plan they are going to have, or are they going to launch any new product, or are they going to expand to new country, right? So these are the, the futuristic information. You get it through management discussion and analysis. And you have footnotes. The footnotes consist of 80% of the annual report. And for understanding towards the business, I don't think, footnotes are very much essential, until unless if you're an auditor or if you're an accountant, you need to go back and verify these figures using the footnotes. I'm not saying footnotes are important, but not for managers or not for someone who wants to try to understand the business. But footnotes are very much relevant for auditors. Footnotes are very much relevant for accountants, and as well as the tax professionals, right? So essentially these three are important. So this is again my favorite example, since I discussed about the cash and the cash flows and etc. You can see, there are two companies here. One company, the data is very much same, for 2019 and 18. One company is having a cash and bank balance, 10,000 versus 2,000. Other company is having cash and bank balance 2,000 versus 10,000. You can see the change in cash is exactly same. The change in cash is positive in one case, the change in cash is negative in another case, but the amount is same. In a normal scenario, if I ask a question, in which company will you invest? There are different answers. They say, they'll invest in company one because there is a positive cash. They invest in company two, there is a negative cash because they are investing, and investment creates growth and investment creates value. So different arguments are there. But as Warren Buffett said in a few days back, cash is the king now. So under current situations, you need to focus on the first company, because the cash rich companies are going to play their games very well. Cash rich companies are going to play their games in a safer mode than the cash shortage company. So in the current scenario, I advise you to look at the companies which are having with huge cash balances, because cash is the king at this hour, at this crisis hour, right? So that is the reason I thought of discussing these two examples. Otherwise, in a normal scenario, it doesn't matter, because both the companies having the same kind of cash balance. The second company is investing, and that investment creates future returns and etc. But right now, the investments are put a halt, and they are sitting with huge cash that gives them the opportunity in terms of acquisitions and etc. You can relate with examples of what I cited previously. And this change in cash is because of three major activities, as we understood: operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. Operating activities are the major source of cash for any business. If a company is reporting operating cash flow positive, it means what? That company is doing well. They don't have any operational challenges. They don't have any business risk related aspects. Investing activities, if the company is expecting growth, they have to invest. And if you don't invest, what happens? Your competitor will invest. So investing activities needs to invest. Now, right now, what is happening? All pharmaceutical companies, they are investing, right? They are investing to develop the medication or the vaccine for this corona crisis. They are investing huge amount of money in R&D. Government is also investing in health and health related technologies, right? So private companies or pharmaceutical companies are going to invest a lot during this time, right? Financing activities are needed, very much needed. Growth you cannot capture without money. So growth requires money, and that money is there in the form of financing activities. So this is a typical cash flow matrix is all about. You can see various firms here. Let's say, all these firms belong to different industries such as manufacturing and agriculture, or maybe, aviation, or maybe financial institutions, or maybe IT companies and etc. Or pharmaceutical companies and etc. Right. So positive sign talks about the cash inflow, and the negative sign talks about the cash outflow. And you can see, these five different firms belong to 5 different industries with different sets of cash flows. So this conveys a lot of information. This conveys. If you see firm one, in the case of firm one, their operating cash flows are positive, investing cash flows are negative, financing cash flows are negative. I don't know what is going to happen with this firm one after COVID-19. Whether it will be same like plus minus minus, or it can be like minus plus plus, or it can be like minus plus minus, right? And by the way, what is this firm one? That is also one question. right? In a normal scenario before COVID-19, I used to ask, can you imagine, can you think what is this firm 5? Because firm 5, if you see, operating cash flows are negative, investing cash flows are negative, financing cash flows are positive. So the question is, if operating cash flows are negative, as I said, it means what? Business is not generating cash. There is a business risk which is associated with. Then they also have investing cash flow. They are also investing further. So when they see that the businesses are they are carrying the business risk, their businesses are not able to convert in terms of operating cash flows. At the same time, they are also investing, right? ICF, and they are also borrowing. So they are taking the huge risk. Firm 5 is taking huge risk in comparison with firm 1. I could say the risk is more with firm 5 rather than the firm 1. And if you try to name these two firms, firm 1 and firm 5, I would say, firm 1 is like pretty much IT industry. Firm 1 is IT industry, and firm 5 can be an example of Indian startups. So Indian startups are in the same state where you can see their operating cash flows are negative, investing cash flows. They need to invest to survive in the markets. At the same time, they need to procure capital from venture capital firms and private equity firms and other HNIs and etc. So Firm 5 is an example of startups, and Firm 1 is an example of Indian IT. As well as you can also say Firm 1 is also like an example of Indian pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies are generating huge operating cash flows. They are also investing in R&D, and I don't think they are carrying huge debt in their balance sheet. So whoever is interested, you can see. And then you see the Firm 2, Firm 3 and Firm 4. Try to understand these equations, then you will understand the business and how they manage this cash flow. So Firm 2, operating cash flows are negative, investing cash flows are positive, financing cash flow are also positive. It means what? They are raising money and they are also disposing their assets, and their operating cash flows are negative. So what sort of industries are in Firm 2? Same case with Firm 3, same case with Firm 4. So this is the way you can try to understand, if you take an example of an industry, how their cash flow matrix before COVID-19, and try to see how the cash flow matrix after COVID-19. That gives some sort of an understanding whether they are going to survive, whether they are going to exist or not. But this is how every industry behaves, set of different types of cash flows and etc. Right. Right. So this document, yesterday I was going through one Medium website, and I found an article. So what about the cash flow matrix? The matrix which I was talking about. What about this cash flow matrix? Post COVID-19. Post COVID-19. I don't have the data, but I thought let me figure it out. But luckily I got a matrix, and this matrix is prepared by a Sequoia Capital, which is a VC-based company, and they prepared this cash flow matrix. They have taken 3 different scenarios: scenario A, scenario B, and scenario C. Scenario A talks about what if the 3 months lockdown takes place, how the cash position, and how the companies need to manage their cash, right? Scenario B, 6 months lockdown. Scenario C, 12 months lockdown. So they have taken some percentage of revenue. 3 months lockdown means definitely there is a percentage of revenue loss, Y percentage of revenue loss, and Z percentage of revenue loss, right? And plan A is what so this side is about the cost cutting, and if management decides no, we are not going to cut anything, so in that case how they are going to manage their cash. Plan B is about what if if they cut 15% of their operating expenditure, and plan C is about what if they cut 25% of operating expenditure. You can see in the first case, in the no change kind of scenario, if 3 months lockdown, so they can able to survive whatever the cash which they have, they can able to survive 12 months. So that is what 12 months runway. We'll discuss what is that runway and etc. 12 months runway. And scenario B, if it is 6 months lockdown, the same company is going to survive only for 9 months. And if it is 12 months lockdown, they are going to survive only for 6 months. How they have calculated is a different question. But they have given this matrix for many startup companies, as at the same time for established companies. It's like some kind of approximate figures, and how are you going to manage, right? Plan B, if you see, what if the company assures cut 15% of operating expenditure, you can see their scenario in 3 month scenario. they can able to survive 18 months. It means what? From plan A to plan B, the cash runway is increasing by 6 months, increasing by 6 months. So that's the reason I think after lockdown, many companies are going to exercise maybe, plan B. Why? Because if they continue no change plan, it's only 12 months, and if they try to see plan B option, they can able to survive another 6 months more. So 18 months they are going to survive in scenario A, and 12 months they are going to survive in scenario B, and 9 months is what they are going to survive in 9 months. Plan C, if you see 25% of operating expenditure cut, you can see scenario A 24 months, so they can survive for 2 years, and scenario B 18 months, and scenario C is what? 12 months. No, runway, how they calculate runway is a different question. Runway deals with the cash burn rate. There is a concept called cash burn rate. What is cash burn rate? Let's say you have a cash balance of 1 lakh rupees at the beginning, and at the end of the 3 months you are left with only 10,000 cash. So beginning of 3 months you have 1 lakh, and at the end of the 3 months you have 10,000 rupees. So there is a difference of this. The difference is what? 90,000. So this 90,000 is cash burned in 3 months. 90,000 is what? Cash burned in 3 months. So if you average it out, the cash burn rate per month is 30,000. So every month the company approximately on an average, they are burning cash of 30,000 rupees, 30,000, 30,000, 30,000. So that is about the cash burn rate. So what if, if they have, if they have a cash of 1 lakh and their cash burn rate is 30,000, they can able to calculate this runway, 1 lakh divided by 30,000, they can able to get, whether it is 12 months runway or 3 months runway or 4 months runway or 9 months runway. These are all the industry jargons, cash runway and cash burn rate. But this matrix is very useful. That is the reason everyone is talking about layoffs. Why? Because plan A, if they continue to operate in plan A, no layoff can happen. But plan B, it means what? Plan B means what? They need to cut. So what they are going to cut, right? Fixed cost they are not going to touch. Only variable cost they are going to touch. So in the variable cost, I don't think they are going to touch with the material, but they are going to focus more on labor. So that's the reason everyone is talking about the unemployment rate will increase. Why? Because the operating expenditure, especially if it is labor intensive, I think they are going to reduce this percentage, from the labor. That's the reason companies are talking about the layoffs are going to happen, because the companies are calculating their cash position and their runway position, whether their runway is for 24 months or 18 months or 12 months. I think this gives an understanding of how the industry is also going to manage their cash and what is their runway point and etc. Right. Next, we discussed about the cash flows for any business. Return on invested capital is very much important, as well as the revenue growth. Now, it is very difficult. Revenue growth. How do I calculate revenue growth for automotive industry for next 5 years? And even if you see the historical trend of automotive industry may not repeat after this COVID-19. So how are we going to calculate this revenue growth? Same case with IT growth rate, or same case with any industry. Calculating this revenue growth will be a question mark. And this revenue growth will have impact on cash flow, which is your numerator for calculating the valuation, for calculating the value of the firm. Return on invested capital is also what? Cash flow, and that cash flow is again your numerator. And how are we going to project? Because it is an abnormal situation, and a lot of constraints are there, and we may not able to we may not able to project accurately the cash flows, right? At the same time, the cost of capital is also going to get affected. Whether, see, generally what happens, cost of equity is the cheapest cost, but the question is how are you going to raise cost of equity or cost of debt or cost of preference or any other alternative costs, right? So this crisis is impacting both numerator as well as denominator. I mean to say, cash flow is also going to get affected, cost of capital is also going to get affected. So that will have impact on their valuations. I think that is the reason you can see the stock market's response on company valuations and etc. Right. So try to understand how the company is generating cash flow and what is going to happen with their cost of capital. That will have the impact on the value and value creation. Right. So I think some of the finance professors or some accounting professors also knows how to calculate the value of the company, value of the enterprise is based on the free cash flows and also based on the cost of capital. At the same time, terminal value, this is the most important concept, right? Terminal value is what, see, let's say if I try to project, if I try to do the projection, I'm going to do the projection for 5 years, and at the end of the 5th year I also project for the remaining time in the sense what, after 5 years, whether the company is going to generate the same kind of growth rate or growth rate will decline, right? So the terminal value calculation also will be difficult after this COVID-19 lockdown. On what basis I am going to calculate my terminal value? So it's a big question mark, and the leadership has to understand the numbers, and they need to see the literature. What happened when SARS took place? What happened? Major crisis like this, 97 Asian crisis like this, or 2002, 2003 SARS crisis, right? So what after that crisis, how the company valuations affected, and they need to do, they need to see a lot of literature and the practices in those times, and they may need to adopt those practices in estimating the terminal value. And all three will impact on their valuations, and essentially these valuations are getting affected. It means what, industries are going to get affected. Firm valuation affects industry valuation also will get affected. At this point, I would like to talk about this gentleman, Mr. Ajay Singh. Mr. Ajay Singh is the CEO of the is the CEO of the SpiceJet. All of you know what happened with SpiceJet in 2014. Indian markets believe that it is going to be the next Kingfisher, and in 2014, 2013-14, there had a lot of crisis, and it was almost collapsed. Even market also believed that SpiceJet is also next Kingfisher, and it is collapsed. But this gentleman, he has turned around the entire company. 2014, he has turned around the entire company. How he has turned around the entire company is a different story, because at that time, not COVID-19 kind of a situation, but definitely that was a tough situation for SpiceJet, because that particular company had a huge debt, and they can't able to fly, and their working capital burden was so high. Fuel prices, many issues, were impact, taxes and etc. Many things were affected on SpiceJet, but how he managed SpiceJet in terms of acquiring the company, I would like to go back to this particular slide, and I'll tell you the kind of strategy what he designed. So he has no Indian bank willing to come forward, willing to lend money to SpiceJet during that crisis hour. Right. In fact, he was the CEO till 2008 for the same company, for the same SpiceJet. He was the CEO for till 2008. After 2008, what happened? Sun Group acquired that particular company. Dayanidhi Maran acquired that particular company, and Dayanidhi Maran is an expert in entertainment industry or electronic media or television channels and etc. Many people also asked a question, you having so much expertise in media field, why are you getting into airline? Right. So that's a different question. Why did he get into it? He operated for 6 years, but airline industry is very complex industry, and it is a capital intensive industry. A lot of debt is also going to be there. Right. So that was the problem they had, and somehow in 2014 they had the trouble, and this man acquired that particular company. Not exactly acquired, but he brought from his own pocket 1,000 crores or 1,500 crores as investment to turn around the entire SpiceJet Limited. 1,500 crores that time was a small money, to turn around the SpiceJet Limited. So what he did, some operational strategies he tried to manage is what, he started selling tickets to the customer 1 year in advance. He started selling tickets to customer 1 year in advance at a price of 799 rupees. At a price of 799, he assured the market that I am going to exist and I am going to continue the services, and I can able to ensure that I can able to give you the right journey. And he assured the customers, and he sold tickets 1 year before, at rupees 799, very well in advance. So 1 year before, right? So that's how he generated cash flow upfront. Cash flow upfront, almost like 10 lakhs tickets he sold. 10 lakhs tickets you multiply with 799. How much is that amount? That is all interest-free money. Interest-free money. There is no cost. There is no cost to that cash flow. But he managed that way. Then that money he used to settle, the debt holders. That money used to settle the suppliers, and he renegotiated, with supplier contracts at the same time the debt holders and etc. So that is one. Second thing, in terms of managing labor, he was hiring air hostesses from countries like Czech Republic. Czech Republic is a small nation, even if you compare with India. He was hiring air hostesses from that market at a low cost. So he was trying to ensure that the cost control was the major element in turning around the company. So he was trying to manage customers, he was trying to manage employees, and was also trying to manage suppliers as well as the debt holders. And you see the company has turned around until last 5 years. I think till the company was in 2014, the company was at rupees 11 is a share price, and after one and a half year, the share price went up to 121 and etc. In 1 year time, the company has turned around. I don't know what is going to happen with SpiceJet right now, but we'll see. One person can turn around the entire company, right? But that time it is not like COVID-19 kind of a situation, but he was trying to use that customers cash in making settlement of suppliers as well as the debt holders, and it was also trying to reduce his operational cost and etc. Right. So regarding that, I thought to talk about the aviation industry. At the same time, see, this is the industry I'll talk about when I come to airline industry. And this article I discuss in my cost accounting class. You see here, Tata Chemical profit up 31% on tight cost control. So already we have seen this, in 2017 itself, Tata Chemical company is controlling on cost. Not only that, before COVID-19 itself, many companies were controlling costs, and that is the reason you can see the unemployment rate is increasing, not because of now. Unemployment rate is increasing for last 2 years. You can see, and you can go through a couple of articles. Unemployment rate is increasing because Indian companies are already in the mode of cost control. But when it comes to Tata Chemical, you can see the reasons. What are the reasons they cited? The net sales were down 12%. 12% net sales were down. That is a big big hit to their revenue numbers. Overall expenses were down 26%. So he ensured that the expenses to be cut down. So our expenses were down 26%. And you can also see the company has recorded a gross debt. That time the gross debt of the company is 8103 crore, while net debt was 5,883 crores. So the net debt information is also given. And however, in the short term, there was an impact on performance post the government intervention on capping prices of pulses, he said. It's a chemical industry. At the same time, they need to spend money on subsidies. They need to forego money on subsidies and etc. Under such tight conditions, the company can able to create a profit of 30%, and the credit is giving it to cost control. I think that is the reason everyone is going to talk about costing and cost accounting for next 2 to 3 years. Right. We can see the list of industries. There are many industries, and this data I have taken it from IBEF, that is what India Brand Equity Forum. This data is very much related to Ministry of Trade and Commerce. There are some copyright issues, so that's the reason I have not taken the full data, but I have taken some selected data. At the same time, I'm mentioning the source as well here. So there are so many industries. You can go through all these industries. As I said, I'll be talking about automobiles, and I'll be talking about aviation, I'll be talking about banking, IT and ITES, and retail, right? But the cash flow framework which I gave, the cash flow matrix framework which I gave, and the significance of operating, investing, and financing cash flow, if you understand, you can relate those matrices for these industries in Excel sheet. You can able to understand what is going to happen with these industries. So these industries I'm going to talk about. So some data I have taken here, the price data I have taken here from Value Research Online website. Value Research Online website which provides the company stock prices, at the same time their peer group data. which is available at free of cost. Those are interested to do some sort of research on sector specific research, they can able to get some information using this value research online, right? So this is the sector which I was talking about, automotive sector. In automotive sector, my target company was Maruti, and I have taken their peer groups. Peer groups are their competitors. If you see their competitors, I have taken Tata Motors and Mahindra and Mahindra, and look at their market capitalization, right? This market capitalization before COVID-19, like till last financial year, till 1st April, 1st April 31st, up to March 2019, right? So last financial year, latest financials are not yet announced. So till that time, you can see the market capitalization. Market capitalization of these three companies, if you see, I think Maruti's market capitalization, I think is huge in 2018. And in March 2019, there is a huge 250K to 200K. There is a huge decline, right? So at the same time, you can also see Tata Motors market cap. Tata Motors market cap was 100,000 crores, and in the last year, you see the market cap is almost like 50 or 60 crores, right? 50 or 60,000 crores, right? So this clearly says, I think these 3 years were good for automotive industry. 18, 16, 17, and 18. You can see, there is a rise in market cap. But from 18 onwards, they are struggling hard. In fact, the crisis automotive industry which is facing right now, before COVID-19 itself, they had many challenges. We'll discuss what are those challenges. Post-COVID also, they are going to have similar kind of challenges. At the same time, you can see Maruti's stock return. If you compare with BSE Sensex as well as BSE S&P auto industry, if you see, I think 10 years, if you see the long-term shareholders could able to grab 14% return. 5 years also, if you see auto industry is 5 years return is negative. Sensex is 2.78, but Maruti gave good return 6.21. 3 years, you can see it is negative. Industry is much worse. I mean to say, negative 17%. Right. 1 year, auto industry created 30% loss, and Maruti 20%, 25%. So you can understand, right? What exactly is happening. 3 months also you can see, 1 month also you can see, year to date also you can see. So what I'm trying to say, 3 years they were doing good, but from 18 onwards, there is some decline which happened, and why the decline, what the decline, and etc. We'll discuss. So these are the stock prices. I have taken stock prices data. I have taken it from 1st of January 2019 to 12th May 2020. What exactly yesterday's prices also you can see. So S&P BSE Sensex, if you see, I think more or less it is moving in the positive direction, no negative returns, and none of the auto company, as meeting that particular Sensex in last one. You can see, I think except one company, Tata Motors. I think last year exactly in 2019 May, you can see there is some positive return in terms of that. Otherwise, you can see more or less, everyone else is reporting lower performance in terms of S&P Sensex is concerned. The rest of the companies are also in the same mode. Mahindra and Mahindra, you can see, I think they have lost huge. Their negative percentage is more, and auto industry already we have seen. Maruti is okay, very close to the Sensex, very close to the Sensex. Not exactly, but very close. So a couple of issues, what they had, you can see their debt also. You can see, I have also taken look into the debt. Okay, 3 peer groups. Let me see the debt. Tata Motors versus Mahindra and Maruti. You can see, Maruti seems debt-free company. It's almost like they don't have any debt. I was wondering, I didn't have time to see their annual report, but those who are interested, please go to their annual report and see, whether they don't have any debt. Automotive company, no debt company, how it is possible. Whereas Tata Motors, you can see their debt is increasing. Their debt is increasing, right? At the same time, Mahindra and Mahindra also, you can see the debt levels are increasing. You can see their debt is increasing, right? So COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, debt is going to be a big problem. So that is one. Debt equity ratio also I have seen. Even in debt equity ratio, Maruti's debt equity ratio is very much, very close to 0%, right? Right. So equity ratio is high for Mahindra and Mahindra. So Tata Motors, okay, I think Tata Motors debt equity ratio is also very close with Mahindra and Mahindra. So debt is going to play a huge role post COVID-19. Maruti is debt free, so I think they are going to do well post COVID-19. And we'll see the challenges and opportunities. You can see the challenges for these companies, BS4 to BS6. So that has become a big issue for automotive industry, and companies they were struggling hard to shift BS4 plants into BS6 plants, right? And the budget last year budget, many subsidies were given to electric vehicles, and in fact a few Indian companies have developed electric vehicles. Very recently they launched in the month of March, but post COVID-19 what is going to happen to the future of these electric vehicles is a question mark, because electric vehicles in terms of cost they are very high. They are also getting the subsidies. We don't know whether government is going to continue those subsidies, right? And since they are in high cost bracket, whether the customers are going to invest in such companies or not, that is a big thing we need to see. Diesel vehicle restrictions, there were some cities, they have restricted diesel vehicle registrations, states like NCR and Bangalore and some other cities in India. So that made a few companies to close down their diesel plants. These are all challenges, already before COVID-19 itself, they underwent these challenges. Increase in R&D cost. I think many companies have invested in R&D because shift from BS4 to BS6, and they need to bring down their maintenance cost and fuel efficiency, which requires huge R&D cost. They already invested in R&D costs. And even after doing this, bank loans to customers, that is also going to pay. Access to credit. If access to credit is there, then it is fine. But what if if the credit if there is no credit facility, if the bank loans are going to be in trouble, I think companies are going to be in big issue. GST issues also they underwent. Labor issues are also going to play a big problem for automotive industry. Opportunities, you can see after COVID-19, there is going to be a personal vehicle demand for mobility, whether it is two-wheeler or four-wheeler. I don't think the sharing mode of transport in a year's time or in 2 years time is not possible. Many people are going to prefer their personal vehicles, individual vehicles for convenience and for travel and etc. Right. So, and there were a couple of arguments previously, the decline in sales in automotive industry because of Uberization, Ola, and etc. But because of this Corona, I don't think so. People will accept Ola and Uber. That is going to be a big challenge. We have to see. For me, from my understanding point of view, personal vehicles are going to be preferred, and small vehicles are also going to be preferred. See, previously what happened in last 2 to 3 years, many companies were preparing SUVs, the SUV vehicles, MUV vehicles, rather than focusing on the small vehicles, right? And because of the loan constraints, because of the interest rates, because of job insecurity, and at the same time they need to survive, I think the easiest way to get into this vehicle thing is what I think customers will prefer to buy small vehicles, right, which may not need huge loan, small, because there is a lot of insecurity. At the same time they can't share the share mode of transport, so they may compromise. They may compromise and decide to go for personal vehicles, especially with small vehicles and etc. Automation is going to be the next option, because many companies are already investing on assembling units to be automated. I think that is going to continue. They are going to use that automation facilities because labor is going to be a big problem. And recently I was reading something like, since the lockdown, I think automotive industry, automotive companies are producing ventilators. For companies like Ford, General Motors, and even what is that? Mercedes. Mercedes are producing these ventilators in US. At the same time, in India, Mahindra and Mahindra Group is also ventured. They developed a ventilator, and I don't know whether manufacturing is happening or not. So they also need to diversify and get into this, right? So that's about the automotive industries. So opportunities and challenges are there. So it's up to the industry how they are going to. Right. So these are the the content which I have taken it, they were expecting that, rise in middle class income and young population. This is good before COVID-19, and we don't know what happens after COVID-19, whether it is going to be, at least, for 1 to 2 years time. I think this is going to be a question mark, right? And shifting focus towards electric cars. As I see, electric cars, the prices are with huge cap, and I don't think that is feasible post COVID-19. I think if someone wanted to do some kind of study on electric cars, I think this is the right time to study. And even if you can develop a write-up on electric cars post COVID-19, that will be a wonderful article. I'm sharing upfront. Those are interested can raise. FDI, yeah, it is mentioned very clearly, FDI and etc. So policy support, GST and etc. That is fine. You can see in automotive sector, 13% is only passenger vehicles in terms of four-wheelers, and 80% is what two-wheelers. Two-wheelers are going to increase, and commercial vehicle space is very limited percentage, and three-wheeler vehicle percentage is also very limited. You can see there is a dip in market size. We have already seen, we have already told you in terms of FY19 to FY10, there is a dip here, there is a dip here. So what is going to happen after this, you can imagine. So that's about the automotive industry. We discussed about the challenges, right? Let us get into IT industry, because I have already dealt with the manufacturing industry. Now let us get into the service industry. So IT industry, if you see, my target company here is what? Infosys. I always discuss Infosys in my class, Infosys annual report in my class, right? That's the reason I have taken. And peer group is also taken, Tata Consultancy Services and Wipro. Again, the data is extracted from Value Research Online. You can see their market capitalization, what is happening with their market capital. Pretty much, 15 to 16, more or less it is same, and 17, 18 and 19, you can see their market cap is increasing. This is an increasing term. So last 3 years, market capitalization of these three companies were increasing, and Wipro is more or less, stagnant. I mean, I don't know why, but you can see their market cap is less than 200,000 crore. But these two companies are doing well. You can also see the Infosys returns, how Infosys has created return in terms of Sensex. In 1 month, if you see last 1 month, the BSE Sensex 1.29, but Infosys created a return of 7.33%. 3 months, Sensex lost 23%, but Infosys stock lost only 11%. 1 year also, you can say, I think it is better performing stock than S&P BSE Sensex. You can see, I think the numbers are very good if you see the numbers, right? In 10 years, yes, in 10 years, BSE IT has given a 10% return. Infosys gave only 7.4% return. So the same thing, I have taken the stock prices. I have seen here, you can see, which is much more than the Sensex returns. Their numbers are positive, and TCS and Sensex are very close. How they are behaving. You can see TCS is with red color, and BSE Sensex is with ash color. You can see more or less, they are following the same kind of a trend. And look at their debt and debt to equity ratios. I have seen, what is the debt with these industries, and you can see there is no debt in Infosys. Infosys is a debt-free company, zero debt. And Tata Consultancy Services, there is a debt, very, very nominal debt. But Wipro, there is a huge debt. You can see, because Wipro is also into some other business, their debt is huge. I think this needs to be factored. This needs to be concerned. Post COVID-19, as I said, debt is going to be a problem. Debt equity ratio also have taken the same thing. The Infosys is debt free, and TCS is very nominal, and Wipro is out. So what are the challenges and opportunities? See, the problem with IT industry is IT industry growth is declining. 10 years back, IT industry was growing at 16%. Came down to 14%, came down to 12%, and last before year 8%, and this year before COVID-19 it was somewhere 6.9%, very close to 7%. After COVID-19, we don't know what is the growth rate of this industry, what is the growth rate of this company. Why? Because most of the business comes from US markets as well as UK markets. So declining growth is one concern. At the same time, H1B is going to be a big issue for Indian companies, and what if the rise in protectionism takes place? Indian companies need to hire American locals. They need to pay 3 times of Indian salaries, and majority business is getting it from US and Europe. At the same time, in the next 6 months or 7 months, US elections are also going to be there. Companies may not trade, companies may not invest, companies may not give business. So these are all what my perspectives. And Europe also we have seen leadership and succession planning issues. There were some companies, they have underwent this big challenge in 2 years time, leadership as well as succession planning issues. Work from home is a big issue now. How are they going to evaluate the performance appraisals and performance of the employees? Work from home is a concern. Cyber security issue is a concern, right? And layoffs and cost cutting. I think maybe the companies may think of this. And many IT companies were saying positive on work from home. They have already seen 1 month experience, and by this time they might have developed some kind of model, some kind of blueprint, how to manage the work from home aspects and etc. So essentially, they try to reduce the cost in terms of their infrastructure, in terms of the office spaces and etc. And incentivize the same thing, to the employees in terms of work from home. And we have already, and another thing, this is most important here. What if these companies, and if they have the clients from airline industry, what if they have the clients from hotel industry, what if the clients are from industries like tours and travels? And I think they are going to have in trouble. I think many Indian companies, they serve telecom, they serve BFSI, they also serve pharmaceuticals, they also serve airline, they also serve so if their majority clients belong to airline, then manufacturing, then automotive, I think that company is going to be in trouble. That is what I can't say whole industry. In that particular industry, if XYZ company is having such kind of a client, I'm talking about that. So this is the initiative. These are the initiatives which are announced by the government of India. You can go through this initiative. Essentially, the growing demand for artificial intelligence and machine learning, and if IT companies can able to deliver these things, it will be fine. They can able to do it, but we don't know how the demand is going to be for these two post COVID-19, right? And global footprint, as I said, they are providing services to telecom sector, BFSI sector, as well as the retail sector. They have also included here in startups in terms of IT and ITES is concerned. So if you look at the sector in terms of IT service, they are only providing services, right? Services. And if you see the products, I think products are very less in terms of products are concerned. Hardware also very less. Business process management is more. And here you can see IT services are 54%. Business process management is about 23%, and E&R&D software products are 23%. I think the companies needs to develop the products, but that didn't happen so far. Let us hope whether they are going to happen it or not. You can see the business ratio, how much ratio is getting it from. US takes 62% business, and UK, you can see the percentage. Europe, more or less, you can see pretty much US and UK. So the fate of this industry depends upon the economies, it depends upon their economies, right? And their political situations are concerned. Airline industry, I discussed already. Airline industry example I gave, SpiceJet, and the SpiceJet competitor have taken Interglobe Aviation. That is what the Indigo Airlines. And Jet Airways, already we have seen what happened with Jet Airways, what happened Kingfisher, what is going to happen with Air India, right? So I think this industry is going to be in tough stage. You can see the numbers, how the numbers look like. The SpiceJet was growing from 50. As I said, SpiceJet, Ajay Singh turned around the company. He made flights run, and you can see something like positive thing. March 15, 16, 17, 18, and slowly there is some dip. And after this, we don't know. Latest results are also not available. Market leader is Indigo. Indigo is going at 2015. There is no data on Indigo because Indigo went into public in the year March 2016. So that's the reason from March only the data is available. Jet Airways already we have seen. The returns are pretty much negative. You can see almost like even the returns in terms of BSE, CD, GS is also more or less it is negative. So it's a complex industry with huge investment and a lot of taxes. I think these are the big challenges for airline industry. You can see highly capital intensive industry. It is highly leveraged companies. More you can see the debt. What is happening with the debt. You can see how the debt numbers look like in terms of Jet Airways. Or I think this is the reason Jet Airways had a problem, right? In huge debt, they had a problem. And Interglobe Aviation also, you see, they are trying to manage their debt. They are trying to lowering it. I don't know what is going to happen now. And SpiceJet is pretty much constant. You can say I don't see huge debt which is happening here. So debt plays a huge role in terms of aviation industry. Highly leveraged companies. We have seen the fate of Kingfisher, Jet Airways, Air India. Price wars is also another factor. Price reductions is also another factor. And after this COVID-19 international permits, whether the countries are going to permit international routes or not, right? Many companies may cancel their official visits, or international visits may halt and decline in international events. There were many international events like Dubai Festival. You can see. I don't think such kind of festivals happen now. Because of that will have impact on this industry. See, the flight is meant to fly, not to ground, right? So if it is on ground, their maintenance cost will be huge increase in maintenance cost. High taxes are going to have. Only we can expect that some reduction in oil prices if that goes to the company. So these are the challenges versus opportunities for that particular industry. So you can go through the initiatives what they have taken. UDAN is one policy the government announced some time back. But see, there was an argument. This rise in working group and middle class. I don't know how we are going to address this. Rise in working group and middle class demography after COVID-19. We have to see. Right. You can also see there the sector-wise composition. Passenger traffic is 80%. This 80% is going to get effect post COVID-19, and the freight traffic may continue, and aircraft movement is also based on the passenger traffic index. So growth as of now, last 4 years were increasing. This year it is declined. I think it may decline further post COVID. And let us get into BFSI sector, the most important sector, and this is the sector which is the backbone for entire economy, because they need to lend money. If they lend money, businesses will exist. If they don't lend money, businesses will not exist. So I have taken the target as ICICI Bank, and peer group is what HDFC and Kotak Mahindra Bank. And their performance, you can see their market capitalization. I think HDFC is continuously increasing their market cap. Some problem they had, ICICI, they had a problem, leadership problem, some issues with ICICI Bank we have seen. And you can see ICICI, they went down and went up slowly, and Kotak Mahindra is emerging. You can say, I think almost in 2019, market cap of Kotak Mahindra and ICICI Bank more or less are same. I was under the impression that ICICI Bank is the second bank, but I could see Kotak is emerging very fast. Returns, you can see year to date, a negative 40% return. Sensex is 23% return. So you can imagine, what if, if you invest in this, what if you invest in Sensex indexed fund, then you can go through these returns. You can understand. The stock prices data again for 1.5 year period I have taken. You can go through this ICICI Bank stock price. It was above the Sensex point sometime, and Kotak Mahindra is also did very well. HDFC pretty much same like Sensex, very much consistent, like how we have seen in the case of TCS and Sensex. In banking industry, we can say Sensex and HDFC are moving very close, very close. So banking challenges, it begins with NPAs. I think NPAs is a big problem. I think after this, more and more NPAs may also happen. Yes Bank crisis also we have seen in the beginning of this new year. Consolidation of public sector banks already happened and happening. IBC issue is also going to have impact. Private bank promoter stake control, we have seen what happened with private banks promoter stake control. Bandhan Bank acquired Gruha Finance sometime back in the last year by paying huge premium, abnormal premium. I think such kind of acquisitions are going to have a problem post COVID-19. Even consolidation of PSBs are also going to have a huge problem post COVID-19. Credit appraisals will be a challenging. Why? Because on what basis we are going to appraise? Because we don't know what will be the future. Credit appraisals will be difficult. One good news is good part is what banks need to adopt fintech. Fintech is all about the growth. They can contribute the growth. All right. So you can go through the initiatives, government initiatives, what they have taken: mobile banking, internet banking, and etc. Right, and digital banking. And you can see the market size. Market size is increasing, but there is a dip here in 2019. And interest income growth also you can go through in terms of US dollars. Breakup of banks are also given. And you can see public sector banks percentage, private sector banks, foreign banks, and regional rural banks. Regional rural banks are 38.13%. And 12.95% are public sector banks, and 15.83 are what private sector banks, and foreign banks are very limited. So I think these are the COVID-19, and the government is delivering subsidies. Government is trying to implement all these schemes through these yojanas, and Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, insurance, or Jeevan Jyoti Bima. All these yojanas are helping poor people now. I think during this crisis, I think the benefit is directly depositing their account. I think in a way, banks have done a great job in terms of saving poor people with these yojanas. Then last industry is about FMCG. FMCG industry have taken Hindustan Unilever and Dabur India and ITC. And of course, the market leader is Hindustan Unilever. At the same time, ITC, because ITC presence is also there in other sectors. HUL is not having presence in some other sectors. There was not exactly closest comparison in this FMCG industry, but I have taken very close industries. If you see here, you can see the numbers, how the numbers are look like for ITC market capitalization and HUL market capitalization and Dabur cap. All of them are pretty much in a good shape. There's no issue at all. And Hindustan Unilever return is year to date is 6.50. S&P Sensex is what 23.40. 1 month returns are given. 3 months return you can measure. I think it is doing well. 1 year return, 3 years return, 24. So FMCG industry is what the essential versus non-essential products. That is going to have huge impact on this particular industry. Challenges and opportunities, if you see essential versus non-essential. So if it is essential product, if the FMCG HUL is selling, let's say, more of essential products, I think that industry, that particular company, will do well. Non-essential products, then it's a question mark, because people are going to be cost conscious and cost aware, and they may not spend on non-essentials. Supermarkets and hypermarkets is also a question mark. Retail the company which is supplying to retail outlets, I think that particular company is going to do well. And the company which is having a supply chain only in supermarkets and hypermarkets, they are going to have a hit. And if they have a tie-up with e-commerce, is also a good thing. And marketing analytics, they need to invest a lot in marketing analytics now, because they can't sell their executive to promote their product now, and they need to invest huge in marketing analytics. So there are initiatives, some initiatives and policy supports and etc. You can go through offline, but you can see urban percentage is 64%, rural percentage in is 36%, and food and beverages are 19%, healthcare is 31%, household personal care is about 50%. Healthcare is also going to increase, and yeah, almost I don't see any problem with this industry, because they are in all three are essentials. Food, beverages are essential, healthcare is also essential, and household and personal care is also essential. I don't see any problem with this industry is concerned. So GST is a concern. I think government may come out with some sort of policy reforms on this. I'm not sure, but they have to. Once industry, after lockdown, if industry may negotiate, the industry leaders may negotiate with the minister and etc. So these are the issues with 5 different industries I spoke about, and you can relate with such kind of an intuition with other industries as well. But predominantly these 3 industries or 4 industries, they had already existing challenges. Apart from that existing challenges, they are going to have the new challenges post COVID-19. And how do they overcome those challenges? And accordingly, those industries will survive. Otherwise, there are many opportunities which are going to be there in the markets in terms of education. I think many IT companies, see the problem with IT company, I think many IT companies may also get into education business, because edutech, which is happening now, and many companies may get into education business. They may acquire edutech companies, if education goes well, because it is recession free. People are spending money on education, so they may venture into acquire edutech companies. That is a big opportunity. And in the case of automotive sector, we have seen uh, I was giving an example of Uber, and I was giving an example of you know the, the sharing model, right? Essentially sharing model, two-wheeler sharing model, four-wheeler sharing model. I think for next 1 to 2 years, these sharing models, I don't think it is going to work. Uber did a lot. When I visited Jaipur, I could see there are many people on two-wheelers. By tying up with Uber, they are surviving. But their survival is only like an Uber share. I don't think that is going to happen maybe in another 6 months or 1 year, because especially sharing model on two-wheeler is a problem. So that leads to an unemployment. And many people in cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, and etc. They are working at the same time. During the weekends, they are also using this kind of two-wheeler rides on part-time basis. I don't think that is possible now. That is also going to have impact on these businesses. Like, and one I heard one term, I think sometime back, just a week back, Uberization of education. I don't know. I didn't get into it, but whether that is possible or not, it's a different question. Uberization of education. We'll see whether that happens or not. So financing is a big problem as usual. As I said, existing business model, they have to think, what they need to, whether what are the changes they can make, and existing business model is a big concern. And I think this will encourage people to do some kind of jugaad innovation, frugal innovation. People are talking about these sorts of innovations, because necessity is the need of the mother, right? Need of the invention, right? So I think that is going to happen. Marketing companies need to think about the advertisements, what sorts of advertisements they need to do, what sort of selling they need to do, personal selling or B2C, and what are the challenges they are going to have, B2B, what are the challenges they are going to have, they need to do operations, global, regional, local operations. And information technology, which I already said, this sector may look into diversifying there into AI and machine learning. Analytics is also going to be a player. If IT companies will get into analytics business. See, in this lockdown, there is a huge data, almost like I don't know in terms of numbers, but last 30 days or 40 days or 45 days or 50 days, huge data is with the companies, and that data is going to help companies to plan and sort out their strategy for the upcoming post COVID-19. So analytics is going to play a huge role. Many companies recruit analytics professionals. Many companies will hire analytics people. Many companies also get into analytics consultants, because they should know, where is the customer and what product he prefers. Accordingly, they need to sell. Consolidations, I'm going to see that many consolidations are going to pay. The big cash rich companies are going to acquire. That is already happening now. The valuations are going to have a hit, and we'll see what is going to. These are the challenges we have already seen. And in terms of new industries are going to emerge, health tech, mid tech, already we have seen. Edutech companies, we have already seen. Google has come out with Google Class and Google Teams, right? And they may acquire some edutech companies for sure, because they are observing, what is happening on edutech front, right? Home infrastructure is also going to play. Real estate is also going to hit a lot. Outsourcing based hiring, I already said. Fixed term employment, we have to see, what is going to happen in terms of employment and etc. entertainment industry, Netflix, Amazon Prime. I was listening to SS Rajamouli's webinar, and he said, see, already customers, already the audience is habituated to this Netflix and Amazon, and they are watching Hollywood and Bollywood movies and series of episodes, right? So he was telling that, again bringing them back to the theaters will be challenging until unless if you don't offer a new content and updated content. So that is a big challenge, so they are also thinking like, what sort of content they need to do, what sort of storytelling they need to do in order to bring the audience sitting at home to the theaters. Gaming already we discussed, diversification of businesses already we have seen, like ITC and etc. Right. So this is all about my presentation. I think I have given you some sort of broad picture, not in terms of a pure research. If at all you are interested in pure research, I advise you to go through the journal articles, the sector specific journal articles. EPW is publishing, and good journals, Vikalpa is publishing. Sector specific research you can do, but I have covered in terms of what the broad outline, what is going to happen to these businesses and what are the risks they are going to have, business risks they are going to have, the financial risks, right? And I have already shown you there are some set of companies which are low debt versus high debt companies, even though they are in the same industry, right? Whether the strategies are going to be same, right? Already, the low debt company, can survive. Already discussed about how to calculate the cash runway and the burn rate and etc. So that will help in terms of what understanding the business scenario as a consultant perspective, as a management consultant perspective, as a business consultant perspective, but not because people are doing research now. Slowly, you can able to see the publications, not immediately, but maybe, slowly you can see the impact of COVID and so industry, impact of COVID and so economy. Slowly you may end up going to see. So with this, I would like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity, and here are the contact details. Those of you are interested to contact, please feel free to contact. All my articles are there on LinkedIn, or just go to SSRN. My articles are available. Each and every article is available on my SSRN page. If you have any questions, I am ready to address. Thank you, the organizers. I thank you, the institute, the FTP organizers, and I wish you best of luck to